Hey everybody, welcome to the very first Zinespiration. I'm Ryan and this is...
Craig, hello.
We're making this up as we go along, as you can clearly see. We're both zinesters. I'm located in Canada. I've been self-publishing zines for years now, and it's about 20 years off and on, and it's really my true passion. What about you, Craig?
Yeah, I'm originally from Australia. I live in Japan now, in Tokyo. I've been involved in the zine community for the last couple of years now, but I first discovered them roughly 20 years ago. So, Ryan, today we're going to interview each other a little bit, let people know about us, and then as this show continues, we hope to get other zinesters and talk to them and interview them and find out what they do. So, shall we start with some questions, Ryan?
Should start with some questions. I think we're both really excited about this, especially the prospect of other zinesters hopefully coming on the show talking about their zines. The whole idea of this is really to just promote zines around the world, right?
Yeah.
Other people to see your zines. If you're a zinester, we love them so much that we want to help you build an audience and get your stuff out there and have your voice be heard. So, Craig, how did you start getting into zines?
Okay, well, straight off the bat, how did I start? Well, it was roughly when I was around 19, 20. I was in a punk band. I played drums in a punk band, and the lead singer was into zines, and he actually showed me. He showed me some Comet Bus zines, which is one of my biggest the zinester that I love the most. And then also we started to produce a zine for the band. We called it Mondo Says. Our band was called Mondo Pest. You can see us on Spotify or hear us on Spotify if you want. And yeah, and he also had a zine running himself. So that's how I found out about it. What about you, Ryan? Where did you find out about zines and how?
Well, I got into it by accident, actually. I was making zines and didn't know I was making zines. I had someone actually pointed out to me. So I was a teenager in the 90s, and I was really interested in like the independent comic scene of the 90s, stuff like Jeff Smith's Bone and all the black and white indie publications that were coming out. I wanted to do that. So you're 15, 16 years old, you're drawing and creating your own stuff. And at one point, I started getting more into humor and comedy. One thing led to another. I was publishing a monthly zine without knowing it, all about me. I had created a fan club for myself when I was 16, 17 years old. And like people had joined and they would get like a monthly, zine about me. And then
Perfect.
this girl and she was like, "Oh, you make zines?" And I was like, "I make what?" And so she had to explain to me what I'd been doing for a couple of years.
Wow, that's cool. Actually, it's that's a bit of a common story. I've heard that a few times. A lot of people like they start with creating something and they're not really sure what they're creating, but they just continue creating it, and then later on they find out that actually this thing that you've been creating for a number of years is has a name and it's called a zine. So
And a
very cool.
community.
Very cool.
And like the whole, I was going to the local photocopier and the video, so the VHS video store had a 5 cent per page photocopier or something like that, and I would just run off hundreds and hundreds of copies there, and the owner thought I was nuts, but he was pretty supportive.
So how would you describe the zine that you currently make, or the zines that you currently make? And
So I publish Pocket Thoughts. This is the newest issue of Pocket Thoughts right here. I don't know that it necessarily falls into a category like Perzine or Comic Zine or any of the subgenres. I have a hard time classifying it myself. It's pretty random and all over the place. There's a little bit of art, poetry, random thoughts, photography. It's really, each page is its own individual idea, and the name comes from the fact that it fits in your pocket.
Yep.
Nice. It's not as clever as I hope.
No, but what about so your overall style? So do you have some sort of name or label that you go by, or that you would call that?
That I would call that's a tough question. I'd rather someone else give me the name. You
Oh,
know,
okay,
like
okay.
so I go by Pocket Thoughts, right? But I do publish other zines as well.
Yeah, yeah, you've got
But they
a
all
few
fall
different
under the
ones.
Pocket Thought umbrella. I guess my whole motif is if it doesn't fit in your pocket, then I don't want to make it. I did that one a couple years ago. I did the Bad People on Fire coloring book, and
Uh-huh.
as much as I loved it, it didn't fit in my pocket, so it felt like it didn't belong.
Maybe you just needed to buy bigger pants. I'm just kidding, just kidding. Um, all right, very cool, very cool. Okay, I've got a few more questions for you. What do you like most about zine making?
I like the freedom of it. I like the fact that no one's stopping me from saying or writing whatever I want to say. There's no editor with an agenda. That we're taking care of the advertising budgets, pockets, and that sort of thing.
Yeah,
If I want to do a zine about love, I can do a zine about love. If I want to do a zine about buttered toast, I could do a zine about butter. And I might just
butter
do
toast.
that.
Butter
Might
toast is pretty good.
because I can, and because you can, and whoever else comes on the show and makes zines, it's their voice, and their voice is as important as anybody else's, and that's a very cool thing. It's real and it's honest, and it's that I love reading zines the most, I think, because I love that first person perspective of this is me, this is what I'm going through, and this is me sharing it with you, so that hopefully somebody else gets something out of it.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, it's something. Like my Instagram handle is 5 o'clock zine, and I just do reviews of zines, as you know. And that's one thing I've really, I get to see. I get to see a lot of different zines, and it's really cool to see other people's voices about different, a range of different topics. Things that I wouldn't have thought about, or even things that are more interesting because it is a zine. It's not like if you just had a conversation, you'd be like, oh, okay. But when it's a zine, the time and thought and has been put into it, and there'll be maybe some artwork or photography along with it, and some writings or poetry and things like that. And yeah, I do like that zines are, yeah, like you say, very open, very
And they can be about anything. I talked previously in a different YouTube video about Silvernex's zine about hemp. And, if she hadn't have sent it to me to read, like if People Magazine did a thing about hemp, I'm not buying it. You know what I mean?
yeah.
But the fact that, someone has taken the time because this is something that they care about, I'm going to give it a read, whether or not it's something that I would have normally been interested in.
Mm.
And I think that's a great way to broaden your horizons.
It's a great way to learn about a lot of stuff too. Actually, recently I read a zine on veganism, and
Okay.
currently I'm not a vegan, but it was really interesting. It had a lot of different points of view. It had some really good, I guess you'd call arguments for veganism. But it was really interesting, and it's something that really got my mind going. And I would read maybe something or maybe watch a YouTube video about it, but it was I think it made it more interesting because I was able to just read it in a zine format. It's not a big novel, or it's not a 200, 300, 400 page book. It's just it's a little 30-page zine. Oh yeah, enjoy
And
that.
you're part of the experience. I find that when I read someone's zine, I feel like I'm there, I'm part of the experience. Whereas, depending on the topic, sometimes with big publications, you can feel like you're being talked to instead of being along for the ride. And I think zines
Yeah.
that.
And it's funny that you say about you talk a lot about some of the original zines that you saw. Before how you got into zines, and then you were talking about some of your inspirations, and I'm similar. Maybe that happens. I'm similar. Like my favorite zinester and my Zinespiration is Comet Bus, and he's the first zinester that I found out about, but also the first zine that I sort of fell in love with. And he is just the thing he showed me was that anyone can write. Or anyone can, like, if you want to do something, you can just do it. Like he's now, especially after years of practice, he's now a good writer and very enjoyable to read. But even if he wasn't, he would still be creating zines. And at the time that I discovered him and got into him was I wanted to write, but I think through high school we're often just reading like classic literature and things like that, and it's like I can't write like that. I'm not. Yeah, I'm not. That's not the working man's literature. Like that sort of stuff, the classic stuff. So Comic Bus sort of showed me like you can still do it. You don't have to be like it doesn't have to be this. There's not a set format. Like when it comes to zines, it's like you can just do anything if you want to do it. Skill doesn't matter. It's just do it.
And I think there's a really good correlation between rock and roll and zines, especially if you go back to the 1970s and the punk explosion and all the punk zines that came out. Being in a punk band yourself, you can probably relate and see to that. And when I think of some of the artists or musical artists over the years that just did things their own way because they didn't want to do it the way that anybody else was doing. Like you look at Frank Zappa, for instance, and the stuff he came out with, and he was like a classically trained musician. He could have been doing anything, but instead, he was doing Joe's Garage and Shake Your Booty and stuff like that, just because he wanted to. He enjoyed it.
Yeah. I think yeah, I don't know. There's so much about zines. I think that's the fascinating thing that we'll hopefully be able to discover over the next few videos.
And hopefully we can get a really diverse group of people in here that talk about their zines as well. I mean, you and I, similar age, similar look to us, right? Similar kind of background. I'm gathering, in a sense. But I'm hoping to hear some voices from some zines that, we probably wouldn't have found on our own unless someone was like, you know what, you should probably take a look at this.
Definitely. So yeah, if you are watching this video, then please let us know. Like, you can find me on Instagram at 5 o'clock zine, and you can find Ryan at.
I'll put it. I'll superimpose it down there.
Okay.
Or my _name _ yeah. I'll just type it down below.
So just have a look down below. And then let us know if maybe someone that we could or should interview or chat to, really. So I've just got a couple more thoughts I wanna pick your brain at, right?
Okay.
What do you want to see in the zine world? Like, what have you thought about and thought, that'd make a cool zine, but I don't have the time, or it's not something I want to make. What would you love to see?
Oh, that's a tough one. Because if I want to see it, I usually do it. Like, I'll even if it's a bad idea, I'll make it. Because I feel if I want to see it, someone else will want to see it too, right? So, put pen to paper and make it happen. I'd love to see more collab zines happening, especially on the worldwide level. You took part in the first Pocket Thoughts annual that I did. It was, I think, 14 zinesters from around the world. And the key for me was to not have too many localized areas. So, a couple Canadians, a couple Americans, you in Japan, Australia, Germany, there was Ireland, I think. And just, that bringing the whole world together for a small niche like this to really make it a lot bigger that way is important to me.
Cool. Okay, I've got one more little thought I want to ask you.
Okay.
What's your dream zine you want to create? Do you have maybe it's the size, the length of it, or maybe do you have something that you've always wanted to make that I know before you said you usually just make it, but do you have when I get if I had $3,000 to spend on printing, I would make this or something like that. Do you have something like that?
Yeah, I mean, like I think more from a design style than a content style with
Mm-hmm.
sort of thing. I would like to have a zine where, when you open it up and then like this folds and then it folds up and you get like all these hidden pages, almost like a puzzle back together. So it's kind of interactive and fun at the same time. So you can kind of choose your own adventure story almost. You remember those choose your own adventure
Yeah.
books? You
Yeah,
kind of
I just read some.
you want to go. What's that?
I just read some recently.
I haven't seen one since I was a kid. But I think it would just take the right. You'd have to have the right size of paper to make it all fit and still fit in your pocket because that's important. Oh, there
I
they are.
remember them.
Man, I had an Indiana Jones one when I was a kid, and I never finished it because I kept dying.
Yeah. I died a lot in these ones actually. They were a lot harder than I thought. I thought
They are hard.
it would be really easy, and I died a lot.
But as for content, for the longest time, I wanted to do the. I used to call it because I first wrote it years ago. Ryan's Inappropriate Alphabet Book for Intermediate Readers, which over time became Inappropriate ABCs, and that was the one that I would totally revisit it again. Like if I had a budget to get it into a bookstore, like a college, university, not like textbook bookstore, but like where they go and buy their T-shirts and posters.
Yeah.
I think that Inappropriate ABC should be on every college kid's coffee table.
Cool. Well, that's all.
What about you? What would be your dream zine project?
My dream zine project. I guess
because I think of you
like
as like the writer than the design style of it, even though like you had that really cool one that I remember you did the video with the glue stick and it was all this way and that way and folded, and I see that and I'm like, that's fucking, are we allowed to swear on this? That's fucking brilliant. And it's so DIY, do it yourself like that. That's real zine to me, like it's really handcrafted, and that's so. And here I am just with my long arm stapler, like with my photocopied pages.
I don't have a long arm stapler, so that's why I made that style. I've got the small one here. This was this too. It was like I found that I watched a video of how to make that, and then I just sort of worked out how to make that. And because I didn't have a long arm stapler, then I wasn't able to. But I've got this one. This is a regular size stapler, but it moves.
It does its thing.
So you can actually staple like it does the job of a long arm stapler, but you just basically you've got the book like that. You just put it in and then turn it around. So yeah, I don't need a long arm stapler. This cost me $1 here in Japan. $1. $1 American dollar.
I log shipped in from Japan. Oh, I think I bought it on eBay.
So, well, that was really good, Ryan. Thanks for that today.
Thank you. I think this is going to be fun.
Yeah, I think so too. I hope you enjoyed it as well if you're watching. And we've got someone lined up already for our second show, I guess, or first, second show
episode. Just in case they back out or something.
No, I wouldn't say the name. No. But that's good. So we want to put a couple of these together. If you're liking them, please, share them around and let people know. Let us know that you're watching them. Please do that. That'd be very helpful.
And if you want to chat with us, reach out to us because we would love to hear from you.
Yeah, whatever you're making, just reach out. If you're in the DIY or the zine space community, then reach out. Let's have a chat. Okay. Thank you, Ryan.
Amazing.
Okay, I guess we'll leave it there. See you next time.
Sounds good.